All right, today's video is about shadows. Here we go. So, first of all, I guess you should be aware that a shadow is formed on a screen when an object blocks the light from a source. So here in this example here on the screen, we've got, I should have looked her name up, the girl who played Peter Pan, I guess, in the original theatrical production. So in this case, she would be our object because she is what is blocking the light. Our screen here is the blinds here on the window, so there's our screen. And obviously you can see here this outline here where the light is being blocked. That is the shadow. All right, because within that portion of the screen, no light is reaching the wall, and so we see what is called a shadow. All right, so shadows can be either very simple or very complicated depending on what's going on. So we're going to start simple. So here we've got a light source that's just a point. So imagine like, just a very small light bulb in the middle of a room. And then, maybe your object is casting a shadow on the wall. All right. So the way that this is going to work is what you have to do is you have to imagine light beams leaving your light source. All right. So the idea is if I have a beam of light going this way, that beam of light is going to hit the screen. So that part of the wall is going to be illuminated. But if you imagine different beams of light, shooting out of your light source, the light can travel in, many different directions. So this beam of light is going to hit the wall, this one will hit the wall, this will hit the wall, this will hit the wall. But eventually our little vampire guy here, boop, 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 now his head is in the way. So that beam of light there is not going to quite hit the shadow, or not going to quite hit the screen. So what you want to do is you want to draw a beam of light, and you'll have to do this with a ruler on your homework, is draw a beam of light that just barely touches the top of your object. All right, that's going to represent one edge of sort of the line between light and darkness. So everything above this line is going to receive light, everything below it will not. Okay, now if we continue imagining other beams of light, this beam of light is blocked, 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 until you get past his foot, and now your beam of light will successfully reach the screen. Okay? So what we end up with then is this whole portion here is going to be Dracula's shadow, whereas everything sort of above it, from here up and from here down is going to be no shadow. Okay? No shadow. That says no shadow if you can't read it. Okay? So that's the deal there. Now, keep in mind that only works if you're talking about a point light source, where your light source is very, very small. And to be honest, this little dot over here that I drew to represent the light source, I wanted to make that even a little bit smaller, but I was worried that if you're watching this on your iPhone, you might not even be able to see the dot. So I made the dot probably bigger than I should have. Okay? So there we go. That is a very simple example of a shadow ray diagram. That is what we just did here is called shadow ray diagram. We are going to be doing a lot of ray diagrams this chapter. These shadow ones are probably the easiest of them. Okay? So let's move on. Now, sometimes you'll have a couple point light sources. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Before we get to that, let's talk about the location of the object. It turns out that the closer the object is to the screen, the smaller the shadow is. So in this last example, my object was about halfway between the source and the screen. Now my object is much closer. So when I draw my ray diagram, look how much smaller my shadow is. Now the shadow is going to look approximately like this, and you end up with a much smaller shadow. Okay? Whereas if the object is farther from the screen, you get a really big shadow. All right, so let's check out the shadow here. Doesn't even really fit onto my screen, does it? Boom. And this bottom edge is completely not going to fit. But the point is, even though it doesn't quite fit, is that the shadow is really big. All right? So remember that. The closer your object is to the screen, the smaller the shadow will be. And the farther away, the bigger. All right? Now, let's talk about what happens if we have more than one light source. Okay? So, if we have 2 point light sources, or one light source that's bigger than a point, like a really big light bulb or something like that, then what happens is you get two overlapping shadows, or many overlapping shadows, I guess, which forms a shadow with two distinct parts. And those two parts are the umbra. The umbra is the portion of the shadow where all of the light is being blocked. And then the other part of the shadow is called the penumbra. All right, that's the portion of the shadow where only some of the light is being blocked. Okay, if you need a picture of it so that you can visualize, it might look something like this. So here we've got this girl standing in front of a screen, and you can see there's this really dark portion of the shadow right here. Okay, so all of that in there is what's called umbra, because all of the light is being blocked there. All right, and then there's this sort of fuzzy region out here called penumbra, and then you probably can't see it on your phone, but there is a tiny little portion over here where there's a little bit of light being blocked, also called penumbra. Okay? So the idea is this portion here, what I've called the penumbra, some light is reaching it. It looks like this is a shadow formed by two sources. So it looks like this portion that I've just colored in green is where the light from one of the sources is reaching the screen, but not from the other. And then the black part that I highlighted in red here, this is the part where all of the light is being blocked. And then again, you've got this other little penumbra over here. All right, so to visualize that, let's try it. So we're back to Dracula again, and we're going to draw our two shadow diagrams. So you're going to draw one for each light source. So for light source number one, my ray diagram is going to look like this. Right, so everything above that line is going to receive light from light source number one. And everything below that line is going to receive light from light source number two. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change colors here. Will it let me change colors? All right, so for light source 2, I think, yep, that'll give me green. We're going to do the same thing. So now everything above that green line is going to receive light from light source 2, and everything below this green line will receive light from light source number 2. Okay, so the idea is everything between the green lines is where the light gets blocked from light source 2. Everything between the black lines is where light gets blocked from light source 1. So this area here in the middle is called umbra, because no light from either of our two sources is going to reach that portion of the screen. Okay? And then these two little parts on the outer edges here and here are both called penumbra. Okay, this top part that I just drew, what's going to happen is light from light source number 1 will reach that part of the screen, but not light from light source number 2. So you're going to get kind of a fuzzy, blurry portion of the shadow. All right, and then here's another part down here. This is a portion where light from light source 2 will reach the screen, but not from light source number 1. Okay, so the important thing to remember about penumbra is it's usually a little bit blurrier, and it's definitely not as dark as the umbra. Okay, so now what if you've got just one light source, one big light source? Okay, what's going to happen is light leaves our light source in all different directions from all different points of the light source. All right, and so basically what you're going to do is you treat it just like you did with the 2 point light sources, and you just look at the 2 outer edges. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of treat it as a point source from here and a point source from here. Okay, so here's one edge of my light. Gotta make the sound effect or it won't work. Okay, so any light leaving that edge of my light bulb will get blocked between those 2 black lines, and then light leaving this edge will get blocked between the 2 green lines. All right, so for all intents and purposes, when you're doing, whoa, what is going on there? It is not, no, it's snapping to horizontal. All right, that last line isn't going to quite let me put it where I want to. So pretend that, oh, dang it. All right, that last line didn't quite work. I'm going to let it go, but this line right here should be going through his foot right there. So Unfortunately, the smartboard is trying to draw that line horizontal, even though I don't want it to be quite horizontal. So anyway, once again, this ends up looking exactly like it would if we had two light sources. The main difference is the umbra is going to be even blurrier. Sorry, the penumbra is going to be even blurrier, but your labels are still the same. You've got the umbra here in the middle, that's where all the light is being blocked, and then the penumbra here, and penumbra here. Okay? Now, what if you've got two large light sources? All right, this gets a little bit more complicated, but I believe that we can do it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do light source number 1. Oh, I guess we'll do green. Okay, there's one portion. And then we'll do the other side. All right, so there we go. There's one shadow. So from that one, you're going to have penumbra, umbra, penumbra, right? Okay, now we're going to repeat the same process for light source number 2. This time I'm going to use dotted lines. Okay, so, oh, I thought that was going to be dotted. It is not. Let's see, undo. Try that again. Dotted, there we go. All right, so there we go. There is beam number 1 and beam number 2. And boom and boom. So for that part, let's do this in blue. Here's our umbra for that one, and our penumbra, and our penumbra. All right, so we got a lot of overlapping stuff. All right, so our final answer for this is really going to be that this portion here, where the two umbras overlap, that's where no light is going to reach the screen at all. Umbra. Okay, anything outside of that region means that at least a little bit of light from one of my two light sources is going to reach it. So technically, for the whole thing, this whole thing is penumbra, and all of this is penumbra. And the only part that's umbra is the part where the two umbras overlap. Okay? Honestly, on the homework, I don't think I'm giving you any problems like this. The main reason I wanted to show you this is because if you use different colored light sources, like suppose that, I don't know, whatever, maybe this is a blue light and this is a red light, what ends up happening then is you get something that looks like this. All right, so what we've got here is one person standing in front of a screen with, it looks like, 3 different color lights. There's a red light. Oh, you can't see where I wrote red. There's a red light, there's a green light, and there's a blue light. And there are portions where none of the light is blocked, right? That's why you're getting white there. There are portions where just the blue light is being blocked, which is why we've got red and green here. There are portions where just the green is being blocked, which is why we've got red and blue here, etc. So just kind of gives us a cool pattern. All right, there we go. Look at that, under 15 minutes. Have a great day.